Hey YouTube, hey Boxing Day. So I've been working my way through I suppose this will be the last jpaxes of 23. So this is a Yamaha RBX bass, which I've put a modification in. Don't know if you look there, if you get the light out, you can see we've got 3 knobs and an extra socket. What does that do? Yeah, so I have a lot of time for these basses. I don't think they're particularly pretty. I'm currently doing the prettiest basses ever. This modern type shape doesn't suit for me, but practicality wise, they're right in there. I like it now. It's got cool paint on it. So basically the way I would use it anyways is just use the P bass. The jazz bass pickup doesn't really suit what I'm doing very much. But there's a jazz bass pickup. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have lowered it quite as much as I did. I was worried it was quite a bit louder than the neck, but I think I've over-egged it. Get a bit more height out of it. A bit better. Yeah, so the way it's working just now is, but I'm going to actually, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to try and get Jen to explain how this switch works, which I'm pretty sure doesn't actually know how to put what the actual. So basically, you've got a volume for the P bass pickup, a volume for the jazz bass pickup, and a master tone control, and that's the output jack there. So all that works as you would expect. You don't need to use the silly extra thing. So back onto the P bass. So the silly extra thing is have another lead that goes into another amp. If you were clever, you'd probably use a right angled lead so you can actually get at these knobs a bit better, but we'll get there. So now we've still got coming through the bass amp, which is a green lead plugged into the bass amp. Got a full on P bass coming through the bass pickup. The no longer. What this extra socket does is that's now going to the guitar amp. So if you turn that up a bit, turn off the tuner, then turn that up a bit. See, the problem with using fuzz with bass is as soon as you put it through a fuzz pedal, you lose all the low ends. So this one you can actually dial in fuzz, but the low end's still all there. The tone control no longer controls the bridge pickup, the jazz pickup anyway, so use a jazz pickup on its own. So basically that's what happens when you plug into a fuzz pedal with a bass. But you bring the bass back at the P bass pickup. Yes, you do get pedals that do that, but this means you actually control on your guitar. So I've called this the Billy Sheehan Mad Mod because Billy Sheehan very famously on his, I think it's a Fender P bass, has added an extra pickup. So he's got the Fender P bass pickup and he's got a Gibson EBO mudbucker in the neck position. I think he did this when he was like 20 or something like that. And he's basically got another volume control and 2 separate outputs. And his plan was you get this sort of super beefy mudbucker sound, and you can stick it through an amp on that side of the stage, and then you get your P-bass sound, which you can stick through an amp on that side of the stage, therefore playing through twice as many amps, but both sounding different. Whereas this guitar here, so it's actually quite a simple mod. All I need to do is find a special jack socket, and everything just works, and it's already got 2 pickups in it. So this one, instead of having the EBO pickup as the bassy one and the P-bass pickup as the trebly one, this has got the P-bass pickup and the jazz bass. But with the jazz bass, you know, if you EQ it and stuff, you can pretty much make it do anything anyway. But I wanted it so you could have, if you don't actually have a bass fuzz pedal, you do get them and it's got a wet and dry thing on it. But if you use a normal fuzz pedal, whenever you play it, you don't get any low end, you just get high end fizzle. It's amazing how a wee tiny bit of fuzz, not that much tiny, basically, I can normally do this anyway because I'm running I've got my loop pedal's a stereo one, so my guitar goes into the tuner. The green lead goes into a tuner and then goes into an AB box. One of them sends it to the drum machine, the looper, and then the bass amp, and the other one sends it to the pedal board and then the orange amp. But I'm not using that AB just now. I've got them both hardwired in, so basically you need 2 amps. But you don't need a particularly powerful one for the guitar. The distortion side of it, you know, if you've got like running a decent bass amp, then just a wee small, even like, you know, even a wee 15-watt Marshall or something like that would just give you that fizz on top of your bass. Obviously, I'm sitting here thinking, wouldn't this be phenomenal in the 8-string bass, this mod? Yeah, so as I said, when this isn't plugged in, you've got a standard PJ setup, volume for the P-bass, volume for the jazz bass, and then master tone control. When you plug in something into this first one, like the headphone socket on your amp, when you plug in the headphones, the speaker goes off. So this, when you plug this in, it intercepts the cable and no longer sends the jazz bass pickup to the normal output. It sends it to this volume control and out here. But it's just, I said there's no tone on this one. Just make sure. No, my wiring is good. But that's a sound in its own right. But bringing a bit of bass. Right, so all pretty silly, but I made it a bit sillier. So there's a push-pull pot under the tone, right? So my thinking here is, right, I've already, basically the only mod I did was add in this extra socket, which I can pretty much put in any PJ guitar or any bass that's got 2 sockets, and I really quite like this. I have done something similar before with an Iron Brew bass, but not as refined as this. This is, I'm going for how easy can it be to operate. So that's basically it. It was a bit easy. Yeah, so I made it harder. So there's push-pull pot in below this. What happens when you pull this up? When you're in stereo mode, right, it sends... It splits the P-bass pickup in 2. So now you've got the thin strings are coming through that amp, which is obviously not working because you're not hearing it in stereo. A little bit, maybe a bit like that. yeah, so it's now in stereo. So basically, the top E and A bass amp come out the regular output, and the D and the G come out the stereo output. Doesn't necessarily probably have to be through the fuzz, but you can hear which ones it's doing because the fuzz is on. But see when you go. Yeah, it sounds mad because it's going whoa, 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 whoa. Obviously, there's a slight amount of bleed coming through. Maybe a wee bit on the A string. A little bit of that's coming through, but not. Yeah, so you do that Led Zeppelin thing, like does it? Maybe I know. You just go. Imagine that in a 3-piece though. Maybe less of that. See that actually. On it. Should really put some silly pedals in. What is that? That first pedal sound like? Oh, it's still in stereo mode. Back into normal stereo mode, so we've just got the fuzz coming out that amp, and you maybe want to be a bit cleverer with the fuzz, playing it a bit quieter. Not using that. what I should really do is plug in some more effectsy pedals, like, because obviously I'm using fuzz there, really just so you can hear what's coming through amp 2. But I mean, you could put chorus through it, or phaser, or flanger, or something a bit more swooshy, which means you would still have good solid unaffected notes coming through the bass amp, the P bass, but then fade in. Well, I've made it stereo, haven't I? But I do rate these wee Yamaha RBXs. This isn't actually the first RBX jpax has done. I've got another one that's still in our shed, which is a 400, and this is a 170. It's a 470, so it's a more expensive one than this, but the neck on it was knackered, the truss rod was burst, so I put another neck on it, put bits of metal in it, and it I kind of lost interest in the bass because I'm not that keen on the... It's active as well. I'm not that keen on active. I like a P bass, and the jazz bass pickup's just like, well, because it's there, I got to do that. See, it's got like a mouth. It's also got some subliminal writing and the like on it. There's subliminal when you can actually see it. Sometimes you can see writing in these, but this one actually does say "in the now" on it, and this looks a bit like a mouth, and there's eyeballs everywhere. And I tried to put that jack socket in the middle of that eyeball, but that wasn't happening. There wasn't enough room in the back of the guitar. There might be more shit written in the back. There's definitely writing of some description in there. USB. This is one of the first ones to have faces. Look at that. Look at those bits there. Look at that though. These are the angles. Look at that angle. Yeah, I've got a bass that looks like that. No, very good. Yeah, so only one more thing to do with this really is so you've only got one amp. Oh. So this still does something. What it does if you pull this out, the tone pot. Hear the difference? Well, you can actually turn off the thin strings, or you can turn off the thick strings. Why you would want to do that? I don't know. Maybe there's too much. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to be able to hear. Someone's annoying you, and you say, "Don't play the thin strings." I suppose could make bass playing easier because it doesn't really matter what you do with these strings. You can miss them and stuff, so it's easier to play. Maybe it doesn't matter if you're hitting the other ones. What does the tone work on the bridge? Yeah, the tone does work on that because it's going to the normal output. Yeah, so when you're in special mode, mode 2 or whatever, and you pull that out, it gives you. Also, actually thinking about it, that's then wired in parallel. I forget. My genius knows no bounds. I forget why I'd done these things. Yeah, so that's now with both volumes up and the special switch engaged. That's now a well, it's the coils are in parallel, not series. So that is a hum cancelling single coil. Whereas if you turn it back on again, that's a humbucker. Doesn't seem to make that much difference, does it? I'd maybe say it was a little bit softer. There's a single coil. So I really can't say enough good things about. I suppose this is it's a Pacifica bass really, innit? Pretty much. Shape wise, it doesn't do anything for me. Painting it this way makes it a huge difference to my likingness of this bass. But it's just totally rock solid, suitable for any style. You got your P bass, it's just kind of all you need. And a good P bass at that. Jazz bass pickup. Both on. And then one more wee final blast out with using my extra lead. Did I turn that amp off? I didn't. It's on. Yeah, so just stick the extra leads in the front. So the fuzzes I've been using have been, this is the twin note pie fuzz, which I tend to call my Black Sabbathy pedal. It's just kind of like a sort of, like a big muff maybe, something like that, but it's got a tone control on it so it doesn't go as muddy. The Delamo fuzz, which is a cheapy super fuzz copy, and I think I was using the Rat for a wee bit there. None of them being specific bass pedals. You can always tell a bass fuzz because it's got a wet and a dry thing on it, because as I said there, normally when you play through full on through a fuzz pedal, you just lose all the low ends and you just end up with that, whereas that, you've lost that. Yeah, so much experimentation to be had with someone who buys this as not only a jpax instrument, also does a couple of cheesy things. Be able to play through 2 amps, especially if one of them distorted. Hello Sabbath fans, that's all they are. Not tuned out to C sharp. Yeah, so I'd probably say this is the best jpax bass yet. Not the most expensive and celebrated of guitar models to start with, but one of the best guitar models to start with. There's actually another guitar kicking about, another jpax one, which is, there's a Pacifica sitting there, and it's fucking really good. It's like some of the guitars, obviously you can make them all play really well, but some of them, you just get sort of certain magical instruments, and it's no coincidence that it happens to be Yamahas and Ibanez that seem to be those magical ones. You don't get very many magical Squires and the same way. They're just not as good guitars. So if you can get over the look of it, which I think, to be honest, now it's got a look. It looks funky and cool, and I would now play this. Whereas if it was, I think before this one was, if I remember correctly, was a sort of metallic blue colour. Just boring. My God, does it look boring. Yamaha are very guilty of making their cheapest ones in the range look like the cheapest ones in the range. But I mean, what else do you really need on a bass? I mean, to be honest, even see this without the jazz bass pickup, it'd just be a totally fine bass, and I would have absolutely no problem with it. Maybe better than the, well, it's a better bass than the wee mid bass probably, but the extra thing is just cheesy. As I said, the only thing that's noticeable is it's got an extra output socket in the front. If you never press it, you don't ever have to use it. And the push-pull thing, okay, it's really for when you're using 2 amps anyway, because if you're plugged into 2 amps anyway, wouldn't it be cool to do the stereo thing? But technically, if you pull out this button, it puts these two into parallel instead of series, which still counts as something else, and you get a volume control for the treble strings and a volume control for the bass strings, which is... it's a thing. Not really come across any other basses that do that. Why you would really want to do that, I don't know. But there's definitely some sort of in the stereo thing, there's definitely pedals options in there. Imagine you put octave bass on the low strings but not on the high strings, or put chorus on the high strings, or different things. Which is obviously all a sort of a secondary product. The idea was I wanted to be able to bring in the jazz bass pickup through a fuzz pedal, so you've still got the full on bass, and then you're just adding shit on top of it, rather than running it through a fuzz pedal. Whereas when you use that wet and dry mix thing, the more to wet, if you go all the way to wet, obviously it's just the fuzz pedal, and if you go all the way to the other way, it's just the pure bass sound. But that means as soon as you start turning it away from the pure bass sound, you're losing some of what I'm using there is the. I've turned the amp off. Yeah. So get in there quick. This mod I might be doing to other things. I quite like it. It's not difficult, and it doesn't really get in the way, and it's relatively easy to explain. The silly stereo thing, you just ignore that. That's fine. But if you plug a thing in there, it's stereo. Actually, I invented this idea about plugging it in stereo when I was in America. I helped build it was just a copy, but a Rickenbacker 12-string guitar and 4-string bass, and it didn't have scratch plates that were missing from it, so I designed them but didn't actually get cut them out, gen painted them, but they were still wet, so I didn't have a chance to wire them, so I drew wiring diagrams for some poor sod in America, and I did it. I had a whatever I don't even know what you call this type of jack socket on it, so that basically if you just use the bottom output, you had the 12-string neck and the bass neck coming through the same amp, whereas if you stuck a socket and a jack into the top one, it split the two of them in half, so the top would suddenly just become the 12-string and the bottom would become the bass amp, but if you unplug it, it just reverts it. I like that. There's definitely some things I've not done with these sort of automatic switching output jacks for things like that. I love the way that I can do that basically without that stupid stereo switch, which I had to put in just to see if it worked. Well, I knew it would work just for the sake of it. But it's a good mod for a PJ. I mean, it's like my wee Fernandez Black Sabbath bass. It's got a PJ pickup. Never used a jazz bass pickup, and it would just be a case of sticking an extra output jack. Doesn't have to be there. I could put it on the edge. Would just give it that stereo thing. My problem with doing that is, because I'm using two basses, I would have to do that with whatever the other bass I was using for the C sharp, and I generally only ever use most of my basses are just P bass pickups. I don't really feel the need for a PJ. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's better having it, not using it, I suppose. But for me, this is much more useful, just because it could do the stereo thing. It says that you've got to have a setup like me, though. You've got to have an amp. Or I suppose you could have an amp with two channels on it, would do it at the same time. It wouldn't be proper stereo then. But having a couple of amps, and it doesn't need to be a particularly, you've got your good bass amp handling all the low end, that's fine, and something else to take the fizz. Even just like a wee 10-watt practice amp or something like that would be enough to just put a little bit of fizzle on top without losing all the low end. My God, I've talked for 40 minutes again. So there you go. jpax number, I'm not sure. I'm going to say high 70s. I think I did 82 the other day, even though I said it was 83. Because Jen actually phoned up the guy and asked him what number was on the back of the headstock, and it was 82, the Les Paul. So I think it might be after that, depending on how. Was this painted before it? I think this might have been painted before it. This is maybe like a 76, 77, somewhere around about there. But I mean, just look at it. Check out Jen's Facebook page. Jennifer Armstrong, artist. And people was someone's actually talking about her. Looking at her page earlier on, someone was you should make do scratch plates and sign them and make them like one of a limited run and stuff, and it's like you can't get more limited run than these. This is the one. Maybe what another one? Well, it's possible. I mean, I'll be looking out for these bases. These bases are good, and I could wire it the same. It's not going to look the same. Well, it depends on what bases we get. This is the one, the unique. There's no other one. This is the only base. Like, this is probably the only base in the world that's wireless as well. That yellow bit just looks phenomenal, doesn't it? I mean, it's just like a psychedelic. There's your album cover. But it's getting better doing the finish as well. I'm still going to say it's slightly textured, but it's definitely smoother and stronger than they used to be. Rock on!